I want to begin just by speaking from the heart. Actually, most of what I want to say is from the heart today. Thank you. My gratitude for you being here. When I look around the room, I see so many people who have been a huge part of my story, this narrative of my life, and who have been very generous in their support for me and also for this decision now to launch into this new adventure. So thank you for all of the ways that you've cared for me, all the ways that you've supported me. I also want to really recognize Mike and Ruben's Diner as well for hosting us today. This is a community hub, this place with excellent food and just an open heart. So Mike, thanks for having us here. It's really important for us to be here today. So this is my official announcement. I am the candidate for Kamloops North Thompson for the BC Greens. That sounds great, but now the work begins, right? All right. This announcement is taking place in the midst of a lot of other announcements around the province by the BC Green Party. Some really high-quality candidates are coming forward. It's a whole big change from 2013. It's hard to describe the degree of the change and the excitements and the credibility of the party that's growing. So I'm glad to be part of that too. And I feel that it's in the zeitgeist of the province right now that something's happening. This candidate announcements event stuff. I'm tempted to kind of launch right into the things that I believe in, the things that the BC Greens believe in, and talk about the changes we want to bring, and get into platform and policy stuff. But I think it's actually mostly an opportunity for me to speak about who I am, why this is important to me, why I'm standing here in front of you today, why I decided to devote the next 7 months of life to this endeavor. So I want to speak from that place. When I think about where I come from, who I am, why this moment, why this time, I kind of visualize it as a river, like the Thompson River. I mean, there are tributaries that feed that river that make it grow. So there's this river of Dan Hines, but there are tributaries that have been feeding my life. One of the big tributaries of my life is my dad, Garth Hines. And Dad was a logger. He was a rancher here in this valley. He grew up here. He worked every single day of his life under the sky. He didn't work under a ceiling. He didn't work under lights. He worked under what the weather provided. Every day of his life, he was an outdoors person. And he taught me, and I think that the sort of the DNA stuff from my dad is about the land, like caring for the land, noticing what's going on. He talked a lot about what's going on in the forestry sector, what he was noticing as a bucker, the changes that were taking place in the forest, his concern about the future. And I've inherited all that from my dad. And then going back to my grandpa, Roy, who was a sheep rancher in the area, moved out here in the 30s up to Pinnaton Lake. That's a big tributary of my life, is the land and caring for the land and the people of the land. My mom's here today, Bonnie. Mom was a community care nurse in town for her whole her career, and she traveled around the area. And Mom, you cared for people of all walks of life, provided for them incredible nursing care, a very gifted nurse. My mom's dad, Len, my grandpa Len, was a game warden here in Kamloops. My grandma Phil worked for public health. That tributary of my life is about community service. It's about well-being, about health, about vitality of the community, about caring for one another. But it's really about how we serve one another in the community. So those are the two things that have come together to form who I am. A care for the land and the well-being and health and serving the community. Those are the things that have informed my life. They're kind of in the French, the core, the heart of who I am. I want to speak to one local issue right off the bat because it's directly related to what I just said, and it's this Ajax mine project. Especially after the Mount Poly disaster, and all of what we know about open pit mines, all of what we know about their proximity to populations, I think that the people in town who have been saying too big, too close are being truthful. I think this is a really risky project for us to consider. And I also think it triggers a much deeper conversation about a robust and effective environmental assessment process, something we don't have right now. So how do we kind of get there? And this is where the land and community service kind of connect for me. It connects even around that one project, that one conversation that's going on in this community. So let me speak now to some issues. I can't speak any more publicly without thinking of my friend and my mentor and my teacher, Parker Palmer. Parker is an American Quaker activist. Parker is the one who's trained me and formed me in facilitation work. Parker is very involved in grassroots democracy work in the United States, trying to heal and bring heart back into a very dysfunctional political process. And Parker said that leaders need two things in equal balance. You have to have these in balance. One is humility, and the other is chutzpah. You need chutzpah and humility. You need humility because you're not always right, because you're not always seeing the full picture of things, and because groups make better decisions than individuals. So you have to collaborate, you have to listen, you have to be patient, you have to be humble. But you need chutzpah because there are things that only an individual sees, and that has to be spoken into the circle, that has to be offered as well. So you have to know your voice, you have to know your own agency, you have to know your chutzpah, you have to know. So here's my chutzpah stuff that I want to give you today. And I'm just going to speak, there's a lot I could speak to today, but I really want to focus just on 4 simple things. The first is getting some money out of politics, so banning corporate and union donations to political parties. The second one is a new relationship, developing a new relationship, a new approach with First Nations. Thoughtfully and wisely considering climate change is the third, and addressing it. And the fourth is transitioning towards a 21st century economy, a strong, vital, new economy. So first off, banning corporate donations. The news yesterday, Andrew Weaver spoke at the Union of BC Municipalities. And at that convention yesterday, he revealed that as effective yesterday, the BC Green Party will no longer accept corporate, union donations, or any donations from a non-individual entity. So really, at that point, we have notified all of the union and corporate sponsors who have been giving to the Green Party. All of that has been set into motion. This was a decision by the Provincial Council of the Greens. And now we're living into it. So we're offering that to the whole conversation of especially this upcoming election in 2017 about getting the money out of the political decision making. Andrew spoke yesterday about Mount Polley. Mount Polley is interesting because the very company that mines there is a strong supporter of the BC Liberals. The union at Mount Polley is a strong supporter, financial supporter of the NDP. So how do we expect a good decision to be made about mining or individual mines when that's going on? It's a deep concern. There was a poll that was just done of British Columbians, and it came back with about 86% of British Columbians said that they wanted to get corporate and union donations out of politics. So we know we're on the side of British Columbians when we say that we need to ban corporate union donations. The second thing I mentioned was developing a new relationship with First Nations, between First Nations and the provincial government. The current practice is a legacy of confrontation, of court battles with First Nations communities. It's slow, it's frustrating, it's costly, it's piecemeal, it's one project at a time. We're here together in this province. We need one another. So we got to find a different approach. We just have to. A collaborative environment in which we're actually listening to one another with mutual respect. And I don't think that this is pie in the sky. This is not idealistic, because there are high water marks in Canada in which this has been possible. This is very doable. But we have to have the political will, we have to have the leadership to do it. And we need to do it comprehensively, not in the way we're doing it now in the courts. The third one was that we need to thoughtfully and wisely address climate change. This is vast, complicated stuff. And yet, it really actually is at the heart of my decision to run now, as opposed to 4 years from now or 8 years from now. It's kind of why, and in some ways, it's kind of like the alarm clock went off in my life, and I woke up and realized this is serious. Barack Obama was just interviewed a couple weeks ago by the New York Times, and he says, you know, his science advisor comes in every morning to talk to them as a team, and he said, it is terrifying what I'm being told. I don't need to repeat the science today. I don't need to talk about the fact that there's this huge consensus. I mean, it's clear that global warming is human created and primarily by the burning of fossil fuels and putting that carbon up into the atmosphere. The thing is, we're going to decarbonize our economy. That's coming. The market forces alone are going to take us there. The question is where we want to be on that wave. Do we want to be behind it, kind of investing constantly in the old economy, using up the last drops of oil and gas? Or do we want to be on the front end of it, where the innovation is taking place, where the new economy is emerging? Do we want to be on the front of this wave as opposed to being behind it? That's the question of leadership. That's I think, the primary question we're being asked. And I want to not talk about it in sort of broad strokes, because one very immediate, clear action we could do is to put an actual accurate price on carbon. Not the sort of half measures of cap and trade, but a clear price on carbon. What carbon is really costing us as pollution, what it's costing us for its environmental effects. I want to recognize that 8 years ago, the Gordon Campbell government did begin this process of putting a price on carbon, and I want to acknowledge that and give full credit to that initiative, but that was 8 years ago. And since then, there's been very little action towards really getting serious about climate change. So I want to just be very clear that that's at least one place we can begin to have the conversation. The last one, transitioning towards a new economy, an economy of the 21st century. LNG is big in the news this week. We just had the announcement from the federal government basically opening the way up as far as the permitting process goes for the LNG project that's going to take place up near Prince Rupert. So LNG is big. And last election in 2013, we had huge promises that were made about the LNG industry, none of which would have come to be, even though they were promised that they would be. We'd already see the results of them. $1 trillion increase in GDP. $100 billion prosperity fund, 100,000 jobs. This is how you buy an election. You make these promises. The elimination of the provincial sales tax. It's fiscally reckless for us, and I don't think it's good. It's just not good economic sense, let alone environmental sense, for us to keep chasing the LNG project. So what else could we do? We have this unique opportunity in BC. I mean, it's extraordinary, the opportunity we have. We have this high quality of life, this beautiful surrounding of the natural environment, and it does attract and retain some of the best and brightest from around the globe that want to live here, want to be here, are here. We are a destination of choice. That's just we have that as an asset right off the bat. We also have a highly skilled workforce, and this has been the OECD, looking at sort of the ranking of high school students. We have very, very well-equipped, smart, academic jurisdictions here in BC, some of the highest in the world. And the other one is we have access to these incredible resources that the planet needs, that humanity needs. They're here. Energy, water, wood. So we have this incredible potential to further develop a clean, renewable energy sector, something that will sustain and actually grow our economy. So where do we go from here? I just think in the face of some massive challenges, we need new leadership. We do. We need something beyond the tired sort of two-party approach. We need a new movement to take place that has realistic, achievable visions that are grounded in hope and change. So I just want to end by saying that I'm going to work hard. I'm going to work hard for 7 months. I'm going to dig in. I hope you'll join me in doing that. And beyond 7 months from now, I'm going to continue to work. I also want to bring a little bit of church into it at the end here, which is hang on to your wallets, right? And we're going to pass the plate. I just announced that from Andrew and from the Provincial Council that we are banning corporate and union donations, and we are wide open to receive donations from individuals. Very wide open. So consider that. And when you want to give, maybe give a little more, which again is church stuff. All right. So thanks. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking this into heart as well as head. And let's do this together. And we need to do it together. Thank you.